Why do some movies stay with us forever, while others vanish the moment the credits roll? It's not the budget, not the effects, not the box office. It's something deeper. A great film imprints itself on your consciousness. It rewires how you see love, death, time, justice. That's because a movie isn't just entertainment. It's a mirror of the human soul, made by many, felt by millions. A movie is more than entertainment. It is a collective artistic expression of humanity's thought patterns, a mirror of our dreams, fears, ideologies, and contradictions. And like all great art, film contains clues to our collective consciousness. It is a language, a blueprint, and sometimes even a prophecy. Films are cultural artifacts and emotional landscapes. They capture not just stories, but paradigms, the invisible frameworks we use to interpret reality. Each film is like a neural map, revealing how we see others, ourselves, and the world. And that's what makes this medium so uniquely powerful. It doesn't just reflect culture, it codes it. In this video, we're exploring how cinema became one of the most profound collective art forms and what it reveals about who we are. And we'll end by asking a bigger question. Is the next great form of art not made by a camera, but by code? Movies are collective art. A movie is never the work of one person. It is a mosaic, written by screenwriters, guided by directors, shaped by actors, editors, cinematographers, set designers, and sound engineers. Philosopher Walter Benjamin once described art as having an aura, a unique presence that becomes even more complex in film, where mechanical reproduction meets human collaboration. In every frame, hundreds of decisions converge. Each contributor adds their voice, creating a collective narrative. This collaboration echoes Carl Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared human archetypes and emotions. Film becomes a vessel for these archetypes, from the hero's journey to the mother figure, the shadow, and the trickster. We see this dynamic clearly in recent hits like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which combines zany visuals, emotional depth, and genre-bending action into an intimate story about family. Its success wasn't just from the Daniels' direction, but from costume designers, editors, sound artists, and actors like Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan shaping a multidimensional narrative. We see this same dynamic in architecture. Cathedrals built by anonymous masons over centuries still convey a spiritual vision beyond any single individual. In symphonic music, a composer's vision is realized only through the synchronized contributions of dozens of instrumentalists and conductors. Like these forms, cinema operates as a co-created space of resonance. This also parallels oral storytelling traditions. In cultures from the Yoruba to the Inuit, stories are shaped communally across generations, gaining nuance with each retelling. Likewise, modern filmmaking is the evolution of communal myth-making, only now we tell stories with cameras instead of campfires. Further, the collaborative aspect of film brings it into alignment with fields like architecture and even game design, disciplines where multi-perspective creation leads to immersive experiences. Like buildings or interactive worlds, films are experienced spatially, emotionally, and symbolically. In anthropology, Clifford Geertz spoke of culture as a web of shared meaning. Filmmaking, then, is the weaving of that web. From script to score, every component of film transmits semiotic codes that resonate with cultural DNA. Costume choices, lighting, musical motifs, all of these are carriers of information and affect. Quality over scale. We often mistake scale for significance. A $300 million movie isn't inherently more meaningful than a $1 million one. In fact, many small-budget films evoke deeper emotion and insight. Consider Past Lives, a deeply personal indie made for a fraction of a blockbuster's budget, yet praised for its haunting emotional resonance. Scholar André Bazin argued that the true purpose of cinema is not illusion, but revelation. Great films reveal truths about ourselves, our societies, our values. Whether it's the slow-burn reflection of the Banshees of Inisherin or the razor-sharp satire of Barbie, depth often requires restraint, not spectacle. This is not unique to film. In literature, a short story by Raymond Carver can stir more emotional depth than a sprawling novel. In painting, a quiet canvas by Edward Hopper can say more about isolation than a grand historical tableau. And in theater, a stripped-down production like The Father draws more tears than any CGI spectacle. What matters is intentionality, the clarity of vision, the commitment to meaning. This sentiment echoes in minimalism across artistic mediums. In design, Dieter Rams' principle of less but better applies as much to cinema as it does to industrial form. In music, Frank Ocean's sparse arrangements create more emotional impact than overproduced pop. In Japanese haiku, the limitations of the form open up a universe of feeling. Even in technological art, such as virtual reality and interactive installation, creators are finding that restraint, used wisely, leads to deeper user reflection. Like poetry, what is left unsaid can speak loudest. Cinema is the collective of humanity's thought. Each movie is a fingerprint of the culture that birthed it. The themes we return to, love, war, justice, freedom, reflect deep cognitive grooves in our species. Cognitive scientist Steven Pinker notes that storytelling is an evolutionary tool to simulate social experience. This connects film to neuroscience. Mirror neurons in the brain fire when we watch others experience emotion, especially in emotionally charged stories. Cinema is a neurological simulation chamber, a place where we collectively rehearse the possibilities of being human. Recent films like Aftersun, Tar, or The Zone of Interest offer complex interior explorations of memory, morality, and perception, challenging viewers not just to feel, but to think critically and empathetically. From a psychological perspective, narrative coherence gives shape to our identities. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the way we interpret events through stories shapes our decisions, biases, and sense of self. Films offer a scaffolding for this meaning-making process. We see this in art therapy, where patients draw or role-play stories to process trauma. We see it in political cinema, which gives form to invisible systems of power. From Jordan Peele's Get Out to Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, film becomes an extension of consciousness, an ideological transmitter. Even abstract art can be a sibling to film. Consider the sensory immersion of The Tree of Life or Annihilation. Visuals that act like emotional music. These function like Tarkovsky's long takes, holding space for feeling to emerge without guiding you to a conclusion. In music, repetition and rhythm create altered states, just as recurring visual motifs in film, like Ari Aster's color grading or Denis Villeneuve's framing, condition our perceptions over time. Cinema also functions like a dream. Psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan theorized that film mimics the structure of unconscious thought. The cuts, transitions, and symbolic displacements in movies mirror the associative logic of dreaming. Watching film is often a process of projection and identification. In this sense, every film is a guided hallucination, edited with surgical precision to steer our inner dialogue. Cinema is humanity's memory. Film is one of our most powerful tools of memory, not just for individuals, but for civilizations. Philosopher Paul Ricoeur argued that narrative is the foundation of identity. We are the stories we tell ourselves. And through cinema, we tell stories to each other that define who we are. Documentary film preserves real-time historical records. Fictional film captures the emotional texture of a time period. When we watch Judas and the Black Messiah or Killers of the Flower Moon, we relive struggles long buried but not forgotten. These are not just movies, they are memory made visible. In this way, film is like architecture again, a time capsule. Just as Gothic cathedrals captured the theological worldview of medieval Europe, so too do modern films capture our collective anxieties and aspirations. Film can also serve as ritual. Communal viewings at film festivals, activist screenings, or even streaming premieres become new kinds of cultural rites. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once wasn't just a film. It became a shared catharsis across generational trauma and immigrant identity. In the digital age, this becomes even more complex. AI is being trained on film scripts, enabling machines to learn human values, biases, and mythologies. The question is no longer whether film reflects thought patterns, but whether it now helps shape them on a planetary scale. Through platforms like YouTube and TikTok, the lines between viewer and creator blur. Microfilms become cultural memes, cinema fragments into participatory storytelling. We aren't just watching movies anymore, we're building them in real time. This shift also echoes the oral tradition again. In a hyper-connected age, we return to decentralized narrative. Only now our campfires glow from screens. A film's power doesn't come from its size, it comes from its soul. Cinema is one of the few spaces where thousands of human minds merge into a single, emotional transmission. It doesn't just reflect life, it codes how we understand it. But here's the twist. In this new era of generative AI, where large language models can weave narratives, mimic voices, and even edit film, the boundary between creator and creation is shifting. Could these models become a new kind of art in and of themselves? Like film, AI systems are trained on our collective memory, scripts, books, images, emotions. In a strange way, they are beginning to mirror our consciousness back to us, like cinema once did. The question is no longer, can machines create, but what does it mean when art itself becomes emergent? So the next time you engage with a story, whether it's a movie or a chatbot, don't just ask what it's about. Ask, what part of us is it reflecting? Because in art, as in AI, the real question isn't whether it's human-made, but whether it makes us more human. If this video sparked something in you, drop a comment. What movie or moment reshaped how you see the world? Subscribe to unsubscribe from mediocrity.